Good morning. I'm Kurt Fritts. I teach Honors World History 2. And this morning we're starting to teach about the causes of the French Revolution, connecting the ideas of the Enlightenment and the American Revolution to what's going to happen in France starting in the summer of 1789. So today my students are already logged into an application that we use pretty much every day called Nearpod. And they're logged in, and right now they're just kind of warming up, doing some fill in the blank about the Enlightenment, and then we'll kind of use that as a jump off to start our discussion. So by now, they should have already started to do that and kind of refresh their memories. And so let's just do this real quick, just a very easy call and response. What type of thinkers are we talking about, guys? Enlightenment thinkers. They believe that what type of progress? Scientific progress or human progress, right? Scientific progress we've already had, right? We've been talking about, heliocentric theory. How does the human body work? How does gravity and motion work? But now we're starting to say, okay, what can we do as humans? So human progress, all right, is possible through the application of what? Scientific knowledge. So now we take that knowledge, that reason, that way of thinking, and we apply it to issues of what? Law and government. So how ought we to live? How should we be governed? What type of society should we have? So we just use that same type of reason. Enlightenment ideas did what? Influence the leaders of the American Revolution, right? Does anybody know what year? What was the American Revolution? 1776, right? That's one you guys should have learned in elementary school. So we're going to use that as a relative point a little bit. So the influences the leaders of the American Revolution and the writing of what founding document? Declaration of Independence, which all of you guys learned about in elementary school. So we know that's our background before we get started today with the French Revolution, okay? So you guys can kind of see, we only watch one movie all year long. Everybody says, oh man, I thought history class would be the class where we get to watch movies all year long. We only watch one movie, and we were watching Marie Antoinette the other day before the Thanksgiving break. And in it, what kind of problems could you see adding up in that movie? Were there any things that you could see that were kind of ominous, that uh-oh, there's gonna be something going wrong? Anything, Jacob?
Austria was warring with a different country that was France, that France allied with.
Okay, so France has made an alliance with Austria. Okay, they've married Marie Antoinette. We talked about the rule always in Europe is that you're either going to go to war or you're going to marry him. So they marry Marie Antoinette, and of course Austria is getting involved in some other wars. What's another thing that you saw that was kind of, what's going on here? Aha, yeah, there's constantly these financial issues going on. They're constantly warning Marie Antoinette of, hey, you might want to wind it down. What else, TJ?
They I'm trying to find the right word. They sent troops to the Americas, and that gave them the idea to start a revolution.
Nice. So they start financing one, so they're spending even more money, so that ties to his idea. So they're paying for the American Revolution, but like you said, also it becomes this question of, what were the Americans trying to do? Overthrow the British government. And so he's like, is this really a good idea? Maybe we shouldn't be doing this. And so you guys can kind of see that, right? It's coming to a head. And that's really what we're going to talk about. So that movie is fun in a way because it leads you about what direction are we headed in. So the French Revolution, we're going to talk about what are those causes that you could see. And ultimately what will end what we call the Ancien Régime. Now what's Ancien Régime? That's French. Ooh, fancy French. What's it sound like? Ancient regime, or the way things reigned, or the way things were. Fancy French term. So there's your $5 word. It's a good word to know though, so I'll write it up here on the board. Ancien Régime. And what that really refers to is society, the way France was. And you can see that a lot of that in the film too, right? How did people act around Marie Antoinette? What were the people like in the court that lived at Versailles? What are they like? Yeah, DJ?
They were gossipy. They talked about her.
Okay, lots of gossip. Yeah, right. A lot of haters all around. How did they dress? What kind of ceremonies? What kind of things did they do at Versailles? Yeah.
They were fancy and formal and did everything on a schedule.
Yeah, there's the schedule, very formal, very fancy. A lot of, don't you know who I am? You're supposed to respect who I am. What else, Jacob?
Everything was either for or about Marie and the king.
Right. This constant ceremony. I want to see you wake up in the morning. I want to get to, they literally tuck in the king and queen at night. All right, they're there to just observe them eating breakfast. So this Ancien Régime was this whole kind of cult of society and the way that they structured society, and all of that's going to come crumbling down, guys. And that's so. Let's take a look at our essential questions about really what are we trying to answer today. One, how do the ideas of the Enlightenment contribute to causing the French Revolution? And then what are the actual events? What actually happens that causes the overthrow of the absolute monarchy? You know, history, guys, is just a bunch of spoilers because I'm going to just tell you what happens after that movie, right? I mean, that's all that we do in history is just tell you, well, here's the story. It is Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, they're the last real monarchs of France ever. This is it. It's all over for France after this. They won't have a constitutional monarchy like England. They're going to start to head in a very different direction, all right? So let's start to do this right away and answer this question. So what ideas and events would cause upheaval in France? We really got two long-term causes. You guys have that on your notes there, and then we'll talk about some of those specific events. So first, Enlightenment ideas. Can we raise your hand and tell me one Enlightenment thinker that we've learned about? Just one thinker? Yes, straight. What's up? Hobbes, excellent. So we start with Hobbes. What makes Hobbes so revolutionary? In some way, he's not. He's not that different or thinking, but there is one thing that he says that maybe is starting to be a little bit outside the box. Remember this?
Wait, no.
What kind of ruler does Hobbes say that we need to have?
Absolute.
Absolute monarch. But he does it have to be ruled according to divine right? No. See, that's what makes him a little edgy, but not very edgy. All right, what's another thinker that we've learned about? John Locke, excellent. What's he all about doing? Locking up our life, liberty, and property. That's how we remember it. Lock up our life, liberty, and property. Protect that. Another person? Montesquieu. What's he all about?
3 branches of government.
3 branches of government. How'd you remember that?
3 syllables.
Yeah, it's the only guy with 3 syllables, so you can remember that easily, okay? So we've got all these different thinkers, Voltaire, Rousseau, Hobbes, Locke, Montesquieu. We've got several of them, okay? And their ideas are really going to start to question how government is, all right? So you're thinking about Enlightenment ideas. What would encourage the overthrow of a monarch? How would people take those things that you're familiar with, hopefully that you still have in your head, and what I want you to do now is I want you to jot them down. I want you to put them down on little this electronic post-it note real quick. Go. Just write down some influential ideas that would have come from these Enlightenment thinkers that would encourage people to overthrow their king. If you see somebody else's idea and you like it. Just like social media, put a heart on it. Okay?
Wait, which one said that we should have the ability to, like,
Just put that idea down. Don't worry about the thinker. We just talked about some thinkers. Now really what I care about is, can you think about what would make people want to overthrow their king? All right, 10 more seconds. There's some really good stuff popping up here. All right, great. Let's take a look at what you guys put up. And we're just, again, kind of spitballing what are some ideas that we've learned, trying to connect the Enlightenment to the French Revolution. And the first one up there, 3 branches of government. The idea that, hey, you know what? Kings are really corrupt. Because they hold the justice system, so they throw anybody in jail that they want to. They can make any law they want to. They can start any war that they want to. So 3 branches of government is a good idea, and it got 8 votes. So nice job, Jordan. All right. That the people are sovereign. Whose idea is that, by the way? Like, what thinker thought that the people are sovereign? Locke. Locke is like, you know what? You have to consent to the governed. That got 4 votes. Great. The idea of a social contract. Whose idea? Who wrote about the social contract? Rousseau, social contract. All right. The consent of the governed, again, kind of going to this idea that people are sovereign, got a lot of votes there. life, liberty, and property. Certainly that you have to protect people's property. Separation of powers, 3 branches of government. There's some really good stuff. Checks and balances. People's rights, the individual rights is really important. That's a Voltaire idea, that we should be able to say what we want, speak what we want, write what we want. We should be able to believe what we want. Freedom of what we call consciousness, that you can say and think what you want. And even religion, that you should be able to practice whatever religion, that we have those rights. So those are the kind of things that we're thinking about are going to make people start to question the authority of the king. Yes?
Also, separation of church and state.
Yeah, absolutely. People are going to say, you know what? How can I practice my religion freely, whatever belief I have, if the state, the country, the government, has an official religion? All right? If they do, then you're like, I never really feel like I'm really getting a really true, fair way to be able to practice, right? And that's why we have that separation. Are you allowed to talk about God in school? Of course you are. You guys can talk about God in school. That's because that's your right. That's your freedom, right? But I don't come up here and tell you, you must believe in this God or another, because we have that, and it's because of Voltaire. And by the way, what was the trick? How do we remember the separation of church and state in Voltaire? He's got the V. It's like the wedge between church and state, so you can remember that. So that's the trick there. Okay. All right. The second big long-term effect, or long-term cause rather, of the French Revolution is going to be the American Revolution. You guys all learned it in elementary school, so I don't need to get into the details a lot, right? But the idea of simply that people are going to say, whoa, this is the first time that anybody has completely broken away from their king and their country and started really a entirely new kind of government. No one else had ever had a republic except for way back in, well, think about World History 1. When did you learn about a republic? Rome. Right. It's been since Rome that anyone has had a real, true republic in a full way. And so it creates a blueprint. This is how you literally take up arms, start a war, and you beat your king. And so the American Revolution is going to be really, people are going to, they call it the shot heard around the world, right? The idea that, this is it. This is how you do it. These people really stuck it to the King of England. And so there's George Washington, you guys know him, and there's the Marquis de Lafayette, and they're riding on their horses together. Thanks, France. Helped us out big time. That's awesome. Okay? All right, so let's talk about what's going on now that we've got those 2 long-term causes. Let's talk about what's going on in France. Does anybody remember about the 3 estates? Did we talk about that? A little bit. I think we brushed over it. I'm going to use the whiteboard here for a second. So the Ancien Régime was kind of structured like this, okay? And what you had, and it's really important to pay attention to the percentages here for a little bit, is it's kind of structured. I need a better marker, don't I? That's better. First, you had the First Estate. The First Estate. First Estate was made up of the clergy. Who is the clergy? Church officials, people that work for the Catholic Church. They get to live at Versailles. They get to mingle with the nobility, which leads us to the Second Estate. It's your nobility. Okay? Who are the nobility? What do you got to do to be nobility?
Oh, you gotta either buy it or be royal.
Yeah, you got to be it. Like, you have to be royal. You have to have, like, a title. Duke, Duchess, those kind of things. Or what we learned about is that they're going to start to sell those titles. Y'all remember Madame du Barry? All right. Keep it PG-13. Who is Madame du Barry?
Ministers.
Yeah.
All right. So Madame du Barry is this. What do we call her? She's the girlfriend of the king, right? And so she's there to kind of be around him. Is she nobility? No. And the people are like, why does she get to be here? She's not like us. She's not part of the Ancien Régime. And so what they would do a lot of times is people could buy in. Here's $5,000. Give me a title. Oh, we'll make you the Duke of wherever. The problem with that is that now you never have to pay taxes for the rest of your life, and your children and their grandchildren will never have to pay taxes for the rest of their life. What's the problem with that? You got to raise taxes on everyone else. What else?
And then when you need money, the people that are left have to pay substantial amount more than you would if you had that same amount of people there.
Right, and think about it. The wealth. You see, you're taxing all the poor people now because you need money. You got a bunch of money up front when you sold the title.
There's
But-
almost as much poor people as there are rich people.
Right, and the rich people, the wealthiest people, aren't paying into it, right? So you have that problem as well. So we have the first estate, the second estate. By the way, this makes up 1% of the people. This is 2% of the people. Everybody else, what we call the third estate, and they are going to be the most important group out of this whole thing, is the third estate. The third estate is everyone else, okay? All right? So these people are not wealthy, the third estate. They're middle class, they're professionals though, but they're thinkers, they're educated, they're Enlightenment type of people, all right? Now let's talk about why is this going to be so important, these three estates. The first and the second estates, not only do they pay no taxes, they get all the sweet positions in the church and in the military, and, now this is really, we don't think about this much today, they get to hunt and carry swords. The third estate, 97% of the people in France are not allowed to hunt or carry the swords. Why would they make that law? Why are the third estate not allowed to hunt or carry swords? Yeah.
So they wouldn't try to rebel against them?
Exactly. So that you can't rebel against the first and second estate. They want to control 97% of the people so that they can't rebel. All right, extra super bonus question. This is not U.S. history class. This is not government class. You'll take those in your junior and senior years. However, what's the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States? Yes, sir.
To bear arms.
The right to bear arms. Right? They wrote it in there. Why? For that exact reason. Right? The Founding Fathers said, we know this is what they do in other countries. They try to stop people from being able to ever have a chance to overthrow their government. Right? And so we wrote it in there. So, make that connection, understand, that's why these Founding Fathers did it. The third estate, they pay all the taxes, they get none of the privileges, they have no real way to be able to challenge any of this. The third estate was really, don't think, by the way, that they're just peasants. Every year I have students that are like, oh, the third estate, that's the peasants. It includes the peasants, but it would have also, George Washington, if he had lived in France, he would have been in the third estate. He doesn't have a title. He's not a part of the clergy. Is he well educated? Oh, you bet. Does he have some money? Yeah, he's a successful businessman, owns a farm. Okay? And so it would have included all these other people. All right, remember that picture that we looked at of Antoine Lavoisier and his wife? Remember the chemist? They got the chemistry set. They're kind of sophisticated, but they're not nobility. They would have been in the third estate. All of these groups, bourgeoisie, peasants, artisans, weavers, blacksmiths, anything, these people would have all contributed to the third estate. So thanks to Henrico County for coming and visiting my class here at Hermitage High School. I'm Mr. Fritz. We had a great day learning about the causes of the French Revolution and the Enlightenment. Thanks so much again. Appreciate it.
Go Bird!